Hello everyone. We're back. Okay, let's do the bass. The bass. Oh, sorry, that was the beer. Basically, yeah, a bass is normally saw. With most genres, doesn't have to be. Can be a sign, but in psytrance, I would say something about 99.9%. It's a saw wave shape. Yeah, uh, that's just because it is rich in harmonics and it lends itself so well for those short, snappy sounds that, you know, do have that very low end and at the same time still have that presence in the middle or higher ends that, you know, makes it powerful, makes it danceable. So that's why. Now, I chose operator here. Um, Unfortunately for the kick, I don't have a program that works that is in Ableton. Sorry for all the people that aren't using Ableton. I will make another tutorial with other basses on other synths, a bunch of them, so everyone will find a synth that works for them. But in this case, we'll start with the one that comes with Ableton. And welcome operator. So we get the filter section, we get the amplitude section, which is the volume. Then we have the envelope of the amplitude, and then we have the envelope of the filter. That's the most important. Those things are what you're going to focus on. All these, forget about it. You're not going to use them. LFO, you're not going to use them. Pitch, in this case, normally you're going to use them, but in this case, you don't need no spread, you don't need no tone. You need one voice, and makes it easier on the CPU. Also makes it easier for you. And the volume, just keep it at zero. It probably is a bit softer, and then later we're gonna adjust this volume to the absolute right spot. Alright, so a bass of Psytrance in general, to get to the very basics, if there are any beginners watching, is basically this is where the kick hits. This is a step. The bar is 16 steps long. This is just your regular 16, 4 times 4, doof, doof, kind of grid. Kick, 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 bass, 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 and so on and so forth. So kick lands, bass, 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 fill up that rest space, and then again, kick hits. Um, in order to cram this all in that small space, because that's one of the very typical things about most psytrance nowadays, is that it works with this ding da da ding da da ding, but faster. And how do you cram all those sounds in such a small place? This is quite difficult, and this is also why it's such a electronic based thing, because doing this digitally is so much easier than doing it with analog gear where there's things different every time. No, you don't want it to be different. You want it to be exact. Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, there you have that. Uh, this is the very simple. You can do any variation if you want. Um, as we did, for example, or I, or we. Anyway, very simple. Made one long, made one lower. So the original sounds like da-da-ding, da-da-ding, and then funky one. So a bit funky, you can go crazy. Um, I lowered the volume here in order for this to work on operator. There is in this section, which is the oscillator, which is what makes the sound. You have this vel. And vel stands for velocity, and velocity is a very antiquated way of saying volume. It basically was the velocity, the speed, if you will, that you hit or played something. Anyway, it's volume. So volume is 50%. So if you have it zero, all these settings will be same. Like it will all be the same. Uh, Basically volume. Because I put it on 50 now. It is working about 50%. Like if you put it at full 100, it will have a wide range. But 50 was enough for the use. Now I put this one much lower than the other two. So as I mentioned in the previous video, the kick is a bit longer, and because of this, I lower this bass note so that basically that little tail of volume of the kick has a little space here because the bass is a bit softer. And if you check in our mighty Exoscope plugin, you can see that it's absolutely horrible right now. So we're gonna fix that. But a good thing is already it is in phase. As you can see, this wave shape nicely fades into the bass. There's no weird spike, there's no weird anything. I barely want to touch it now because it's quite hard sometimes to get it in there. So we're gonna copy that one. Then we have another one here, and then we're gonna mess this one up to show you how and what and why and the meaning of it. Okay, maybe not that much, but somewhat, so we're gonna fuck this up. Say I put it in G sharp, fucking great, love G, G of whatever you like, fill it in. It's the G. Oh, alright, it's not that bad. It's probably because G sharp is maybe in the key of D sharp. One of the things to think about. It's not this fucked up, but like it's kind of getting funkier. That this is supposed to be the same wave shape as this. It's not anymore. It looks weird. And you see how much influence that has on this little part and how much it changes that sound. So you really want to, while you're basically finding the sweet spot, normally I go like a little bit back, a little bit forth to get it sitting right, just right. There is no perfect, there's just, better than not so perfect, I guess, It's terrible to being a musician. So, turned everything off. For now, we don't need it. So, how do you make this? We're gonna duplicate it, and then we're gonna start over after I took a sip. Okay. So, if we mess up or carefully set things, and we just we don't need any nice filter thingy, let's just turn the whole filter off for now. So it's just a raw saw over and over again. This is what you start with. And then you want to have something like, wait, so alright, my trick worked. This one is softer than this one step further. And then we have something like, wait, but I kind of want this to be the loudest, and I kind of go a little bit down in volume. And the reason why is that basically same reason as with the kick, you get a bit more space for other things. Now, there's not going to sit much in this frequency because it's a very specific frequency, because this is basically going to be whatever root note you have. So now we have D sharp. Let me grab my mighty cheat sheet, and then here we can see the numbers, and right there, 39. So 39. This is gonna be very present in 39 hertz. It's gonna be present in other places as well, though. So we want to also kind of attenuate to those and attenuate those like see, like this is probably 39.9. Okay, so 30 should be 38 or 39. I don't remember, but you get what I'm saying. Um, and they have all these overtones, all these harmonics. So very nice. You know, creates that really rich sound. But we want to control these very much because too much is gonna be with our percussion or leads or low mid and the kick probably and everything. Sorry. Um. Yeah. So we're gonna try to balance this a bit better. And one of the things we can do is do this. So because with the filter we are gonna probably start high and go low quite quick with the envelope. So this one was all the way down like that, and that's the reason why. Starts, this filter starts all the way here, and then swoops down whoop, to 113. So it will have all this, and then it will quickly, reduce the high ones, so it's only the bass ones. Well, I messed with the uh, envelope a little bit, so it creates a nice, very punch, loud part of the bass. But because the bass is quite in your face, I really, I just want to shave off like a tiny bit, not too much, but like in this case, I did that just to create some space for what I have then and some other bass elements to kind of make that work a bit and not take up too much space, but you can leave this all the way up as well, then you kind of want to have that bass. You could also lower the first part. The only danger there is that if you really mess with the higher part of this, also how the way this envelope basically controls the filter that it opens and closes, you'll not be able to hear these very much because they're either too short and they'll just be, or they'll just not be powerful because the volume is too soft because you put it very low. So the bass will be very muddy or booby, or maybe it is very tight. The only problem is you just don't hear it. The bass is just underneath everything, which isn't bad. In some cases, it works perfect. The bass is so not present, but with other styles and songs, it's very nice that the bass is like ding, 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 almost like a on the kick and the bass, it just has to. It's just goes really quick and really adds that energy. So we're going a little bit to that, but with a bit more groove. I guess it's not really machine gunny. It goes like so. This opens up these settings. You just can copy it like this. This is how fast it goes from there to there, and uh, basically peak. How loud you want it to be, as loud as it can, and sustain is when you press the note, how long it holds until you release pressing that note. Well, we're not physically pressing it, but in this case it means how long your bass notes are, which brings me to the length of your notes is also quite important. If you look here, you can see go up and then basically stop before the next one. If you make them too long, and it doesn't even mean that you have to make them so long that they're there. Sometimes being here is long enough because you have a little bit of a release to it, so it kind of fades out that sound, as you can see here. If you remove this, it will be click, same story. Speaker is somewhere in out or inside, and then has to go back. So we want to fade that back. It's not perfectly done, as you can see. So yeah, we could probably increase and improve that a bit, and hopefully it will be gone. No, just became worse. There we go. See? You just look at it. It's so easy to have this. If you do this by ear, I don't know. Did you hear much change? A little bit. You have to concentrate. But when do you know that you hit this zero spot? You have to have good ears and probably a lot of practice. Trust me, this is just easy. Got the filter. So envelope is the amount that I want to send this. If I put this 100, it's gonna go up and down, really fucking too much. So I'm like, all right, you need to be at 64. Well, I didn't really think about it that way. I probably just gave it a bit of a, you know, slam and there, and then try to not really look at the number because doesn't matter, if it's any number, it's a good number. It's your number. No, basically just do this by ear. Try to get that right. First you set this, and then this is not much effort. You can leave it as it is. Just set it on sawtooth. Go through the filter, put it on, put it on 24. Here you can mess with the other ones, but clean is normally the best. Set it somewhere in the lower regions because it needs to go back to the bassy sound. So 113, it has everything below about here, this. And this will always be playing when it plays, and then all the way to probably, I don't know, 4K or something, it will slide down. So let's see how that sounds. Now we're gonna mess with the envelope. See, it gets more clicky. I'm gonna open up further, and now it's not gonna open up much. So we had 64. I think that sounds best. I did this in context, so if the rest is playing, but trust me, I didn't make a live work out of this. I put it somewhere 60, 70, and I was like fine. And then I made the rest of the song around it, and then discovered like, that bass is a bit too clicky, and I pulled it down a little bit. That's how you normally get to the sweet spot. Like, you don't just think of these numbers and be like, all right, divine intervention, 64. No. This one is very nice. It's the frequency to velocity. So basically, your volume, the velocity, will control also a bit how open the frequency goes. So now it's 113, but then it kind of scales it. For example, I'm playing D sharp 0 now, and then it's 113, and then if I play D1 or D sharp 1, then it will be like, alright, okay, 125. It opens up a little bit, probably a bit more, but and so on and so forth. But it gives a bit more high frequencies to your high notes, and that way it makes it a bit more audible. 27 is what I thought was reasonable to, in this this one I made, to bring that higher note that's an octave above it a bit more present. So that's another thing that I did. Well, decay you just have to fiddle with, It's just open, so it does nothing too much. And a little bit. So, yeah. Resonance, you probably don't need too much. A little bit creates a bit more of a little increase in volume wherever it cuts off the volume. So here it cuts it off 113, so probably 110 ish will be boosted a little bit, and that's nice because as I said in the kick, if you cut it off a little bit and you add a little bit on the top end, it kind of masks that you're cutting off those parts, and it also just sounds nice, like not really 100% sure, but why this is, but probably has something to do with that it's a bit more audible or whatever. Anyway, so after a lot of fiddling, and you can just copy these settings. Like, this is my bass. I'm just trying. Like, from this one, you can copy this. You can copy this. Just pause the video, and you get that bass. It's not very interesting, right? Just as of now, right now, but we're gonna make that. So, we're gonna add isotope trash again. What I basically did, because as you can see, this one, and this one are all used on the kick, and that's no coincidence. I copied and pasted shamelessly because I'm lazy. So, yeah, it's a good starting point because it also brings those two sounds together. That the way they're processed, it's a bit similar, and here it's almost the same. Like, I started with a little dip here. I found that it was a bit too rich in 1700 hertz, so I figured, alright, I'll take a dip. It's quite extreme, but I'll show you how it sounds with and without it. That very, it's too much, you know, these, it's just that very high. It sounds nice when you listen to it solo. So one thing you could do is duplicate the whole Pro Q, delete all the other EQ, and then when only the bass is playing, you can, basically turn these off or whatever. Uh, but when it's with the rest, and especially with the hats and stuff, I notice it sounds much better like this. So that's the reason why I did that. This is just further, see, I found that it's still a bit high, lowered a little bit, 3 dB. These are quite big changes that I made actually to the sound, but uh, you do so much to the bass that the whole bass, as you can see how it looks now, and then watch this. Like, if I turn everything on, it will not look like this at all. Like, so phasing, and that what I told you about, like destructive interference and stuff. In a way, you kind of using this into creating a creative. Yeah, you're creating a creative sound. You're using it for creativity. So that's very nice. Now watch. See, it's very different. It's not the very steady sawtooth. It's more like a goes spikes, and then on the bottom is almost nothing left. That doesn't really matter as long as it sounds good in your ears, and it has enough power. You can make a track out of it. So, all right, so that's that. Um, Then we have isotope trash. I think actually this is the same setting even. Maybe just a reduced little bit of drive, or maybe not even. I'm not even sure. It might have just sound perfect on it. I can't barely hear it, to be honest. I do like that one. Yeah, yeah, it's okay. Well, Saturn again, it just warms and fuzzy it up. I put it now at 100 because I didn't want to mix the dry and wet signal and get really too much phasey and weird stuff going on. I noticed that wasn't really fucking great, so kept it at 100. It's 100% the wet signal, and then tiny bit, uh, just to tie it together a little bit. Talked about the EQ. In general, I first do the EQ. That's why I also explained it first, and then do these two kind of to warm it up. Um, but I find it a bit more difficult when there's already a bit of saturation on it. But I mean, it doesn't really matter that much.